Well, here we are once again. Welcome to your Monday Tao of the day. The Tao, it's a text, the Tao Te Ching, and it translates to the canon of reason. And I'm here to take your numbers from 1 to 81. I am always interested in what the Tao has for you and what the Tao has for each and every one of us. We are all constantly living our lives in this rush about, muck about kind of world. And one of the things is that the Tao kind of presents us with is just a pause so that we can be present in the moment. So we can be present with what it is we are experiencing right now. I am always interested in exploring the Tao because the Tao is a space of being reasonable, and it's a space of being present in time. And so if you have a number between 1 and 81 that you'd like to share with me, I would love to read your Tao for the day. Once again, the Tao Te Ching I wouldn't say it's a religious text, but it's a text about, being in the present moment. And if you can live in the present moment with faith in the world around you and in the world that you exist in and in the energy that you are a part of, well, then you can live your life in a much just a more well-rounded way. You don't have to live in fear. And definitely the Tao is a space where we can really look at like where we have fear and where fear is not serving us. So I'm going to go ahead and start. If nobody wants to join me at the moment, I'm going to start, and I think I can't. I'm not sure. Maybe let's do 77. As it acts in the world, the Tao is like the bending of a bow. The top is bent downward, the bottom is bent up. It adjusts excesses and deficiencies so that there is perfect balance. It takes from what is too much and gives to what isn't enough. Those who try to control Those who try to control, who use force to protect their power, go against the direction of the Tao. They take from those who don't have enough and give to those who have far too much. The master can keep giving because there is no end to her wealth. She acts without expectation, succeeds without taking credit, and doesn't think that she is better than anyone else. Okay, so we have this. I always like to, start with an overview and just kind of like, well, what are my thoughts initially? And then we'll go through it line by line. But, it's interesting that we started with the idea that the Tao acts upon the world in this bending fashion where it's like, okay, there's an equal and opposite reaction to the top and the bottom of the bow. And then we went into the people who are not, we talk about this space that is not acting in accordance with the Tao. And then we say the master, who the master presumably is living in accordance with the Tao, can keep on giving because there's no end to her wealth. She acts without expectation, succeeds without taking credit, and doesn't think she is better than anyone else. Now, I love this line, succeeds without taking credit. This is a part of my Recover Yourself work. If you've ever come to one of my workshops, or if you've ever worked with me personally, you will know that I want to step back and allow you to do the work you need to do without having to take credit. Because, too many times in our world, things take credit. Even in religion, God takes way too much credit, I think, than he should, or it should. And 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 for me, it's so important that you own your choices and that you're not looking to me to help you with your choices or to justify your choices or anything like that. That is not where we are in our lives. Like, we want to be present with our choices. So that's my initial thoughts. I'm sure I'm going to be able to get some connections between these three different sections. And so we're going to start going through it line by line. As it acts upon the world, the Tao is like the bending of a bow. The top is bent down, the bottom is bent up. It adjusts excess, and deficiency so that there is perfect balance. It takes from what is too much and gives to what isn't enough. Okay, so that's the first section, like the bending of the bow. We can see that, right? As you pull the string back, the top and bottom move in accordance with one another. They move together. They don't, it's not that one moves independently of the other. The top is bent down, the bottom is bent up. It adjusts excess and deficiency so that there is perfect balance. And that's what happens in a bow, right? But in the world, there is perfect balance. And although it can look as if that isn't always the case, we have to recognize that, like, we're looking at it from a very specific time space. We exist in time, like we're observing things in this space-time continuum, right? But the Tao acts upon the world in that way, but it is non-local, meaning it, like, the Tao doesn't exist in space or time. And so even though things may seem out of balance to us, everything will ultimately balance out. So now in this chapter 77, we move to the concept of the, like the person who is not in alignment with the Tao, right? We move to the person who is, maybe in some fashion like the bad person, right? So, and then we say, those who try to control, those who are not living in accordance with the Tao, those who use force to protect their power, go against the direction of the Tao. And when we talk about like protect their power, like how many people have you run across if you've been trying to live your life in more spiritually, or live your life more in line with yourself? How many people have you come across that maybe don't support you because you living in your power means they can't have power over you? So that goes against the direction of the Tao. Those who try to control, those who use force to protect their power, go against the direction of the Tao. And we all know people like that. And and that's the that is the bending of the bow, right? Like, if you have control over someone and someone is trying to gain their control back, that's going to create a lot of tension. And that's like you're pulling this bow back, and as you try to force more control, more tension comes, and then they rise, and there is this direct correlation back and forth to you, cause and effect. They take from those who don't have enough and give to those who have far too much. This is the action of, and we see this in the world today, right? This has been happening, my entire life, this idea of trickle down economics and the idea of like taking from those who don't have enough and giving to those who have far too much. and that's what the Tao is talking about here. Like, there needs to be balance. And when we as individuals can live in balance and we can embrace balance as we live our lives, then we will act as the Tao. So the master can be giving because there is no end to her wealth. So we can keep giving when we are not afraid of not having enough, when we're not afraid of losing our power, when we're not afraid that there is a limit to us or our reach, then we can keep on giving and there's no end to our wealth. She acts without expectation and succeeds without taking credit. And when we talk about acting without expectation, it's a tough thing to do. It's not easy to act without expectation. And if anybody wants to come on and give me a number between 1 and 81, I'd love to have you on. And we'll go through your Tao for the day. But acting without expectation, sometimes you act and you have an expectation and you didn't realize it. And I'm sorry to anybody and anything that I've ever interacted with that mentality, because I really don't. Um, think I am approaching anything, with any expectation. But sometimes it happens. Those little stories happen in our minds, and and we have expectations that we don't even know that we're carrying until those expectations aren't met. And when those expectations aren't met, well, and all hell can break loose, right? And so I'm, saying, like, yes, we want this space of acting without expectation, and yet sometimes it's hard to reach that spot. Sometimes it's hard to be in that place where expectation doesn't exist. So she acts without expectation and succeeds without taking credit. And this is something that, once again, in the world that we live in, how hard is it to not take credit when you see that? When you see that you've contributed to something, not be given or taking credit for those things. I mean, maybe it's okay to, at one moment, to not take credit, but sometimes it's really hard. It's really hard. Like, our ego really wants to be given credit. Our ego really wants to be in a space where we can we can be special. I really like to be special. But it doesn't serve me to be special. The master also doesn't think that she's better than anyone else. And that's what I was just saying. Like, I like to feel special. I mean, I am, sure, but I'm not. And it's important to understand that. And when we look at, like, you know, acting upon deficiency, and so there is perfect balance. Like, perfect balance exists when I can be in accordance with everything, not when I'm special, right? My being special isn't important in the grand scheme of things. My being special doesn't contribute. My being special, my feeling special isn't what matters. It acts in the world. The Tao acts in the world. It is like, as it acts in the world, the Tao is like the bending of the bow. The top is bent down, the bottom is bent up. It adjusts excess and deficiency. It adjusts excess and deficiency. I gotta make sure I pronounce that right, because I don't want it to sound like access. It adjusts excess and deficiency so that there is perfect balance. It takes from what is too much and gives to what isn't enough. Those who try to control, who use force to protect their power, go against the direction of the Tao. They take from those who don't have enough and give to those who have far too much. And we got to think about this in our lives as well. Like, where do you take, where can you balance your life out? Right? Like, if it's your work family life, can you take from your work life to give to your family? Or can you maybe pull from your family so you can give to your work? And your work, not necessarily meaning your job, but your work to yourself. They take from those things that don't have enough and give to those who have far too much. Like, that's like, those who try to control, who try to force and protect their power, go against the direction of the Tao. So if you keep contributing to the one aspect of yourself that is already being given too much, because it makes you feel good, right? That's addiction. That's that fight or flight mentality. That is that low vibrational state of fear. The master can keep giving because there is no end to her wealth. She acts without expecting, succeeds without taking credit, and doesn't think that she's better than anyone else. And that's a really beautiful place to exist. It's a beautiful place for us to be. And that's a place that I want to get to. That's a place that I am always striving to achieve. And, sometimes I get hints of it, but it's a space where, like, we have to really be calm and present in that moment. Bella's going to join me. I love it when Bella joins me. We're going to talk 77 because she never picks a number, and I know why. But love you, Bella. How are you doing?
Hi, my dear. How are you?
I am well. It's so nice to see you. I heard you talking on another talk earlier today, and it was wonderful to hear you.
Well, I listened to you yesterday, your story, and I just thought, is there no end to this guy's gifts?
Oh, my love, thank you.
I, I,
And
I,
I I want to tell you, I am so doubtful of myself right now. I am in a state of very serious doubt. Not It's not serious as in anything dire, but it's like I have to continually remind myself that I am pretty awesome.
well, please feel free to contact me on the back channel because every time I hear you speak, I remember the words of Deepak Chopra, and he said, when people are addicts, we should celebrate them because they are working to get to bliss. But if they knew, and I hope I'm paraphrasing him correctly, if they knew that the bliss was already within them, they just sat still and knew that the bliss was already within them, they wouldn't strive so hard. But the society is saying you have to get this, you have to be special. Well, let's look at the word special. Special means you stand out. You stand out in a group of people. What's special in one place may not be special in another place. I was talking in the other room about, I was working with refugees from a very terrible war. And, I arrived with two suitcases, hair dryer, all the condiments of Western life.
Hmm.
And it didn't take me. Well, the first thing is that my trainers, they would, the younger ones would come and take my trainers and wash them. And I have to tell you this, they look better than when they were new, you know? And they would do it out of love.
Yeah.
I didn't have to pay them anything. They just did it. And so in the morning, they were really nice and clean. I didn't even want to get them dirty because they were so nice. And at the end of it, when I left, I just had my backpack because I'd given all the stuff away. And I stopped wearing makeup after that because I was special wearing makeup and dressing a certain way. But in this society, they just connected with me with love, with what I was giving to make their lives a little better. I didn't have to do anything. I didn't have to wear makeup. I didn't have
Right.
to blow dry my hair. I didn't have to wear fancy clothes. And we've talked about this on the about this before. The same thing on the El Camino.
Hmm.
Everyone is special. People come and tell you the deepest, darkest secret for 5 minutes, and you may not walk with them again
Right.
because that moment they felt special. They felt a sense of trust in you to be able to talk to you about their deep, deep concerns. So, where are we special? Are we special in that moment we were there? Because the next moment we're not special.
Right.
So, our authentic self, which is connected with love. And I've said this too, that from my own experiences, we're constantly in this battle between the battle of our senses, which is quick and very gratifying, and the battle of our higher self, which is deep love. And we see the battle of the higher self when we see pictures of old people who we regard as aged lie next to each other and symbolizing love. I think people who see this picture always have a smile in their face because all the things which we thought, the surgical facelifts, the
Hmm.
labeled clothes, the labeled beds, and everything's not there. It's just a bed, two people who are connected with the love they have with each other.
And that's something we carry with us every moment of the day, like that
Ex-
love that we have for each other, like the love that I have for you, and the connections.
exactly.
You
Exactly.
start to speak, and like I literally cried because I am so connected, and it is so beautiful to feel connected to you.
Yeah. But Martin, connection. I mean, if I'm going to put my scientific hat on, I mean, we know we're in the world of quantum,
Yes, yes, yes.
but let's talk about classical physics.
Yes,
Newton's third law says action and reaction are equal and opposite. As you know, no one holds the ultimate truth. So let's switch between classical physics and quantum mechanics. The thing is that you feel that because I feel the same for you. If
yes,
I didn't feel that, you wouldn't be able to draw out the things that I'm saying to you, and I wouldn't be able to hear the things you're saying to me.
right. We wouldn't be, it wouldn't, we are able to be here and have this experience because the
Mhm.
experience exists within us.
Exactly,
And
exactly.
within us is, like when I say within us, that doesn't mean within my body or within my mind. It's within the I that is you and I, right? Like
Exactly.
and it is the I am that has the experience. And this body and mind are able to record that experience for, use later if I want to think about it. But the experience is just an action that is taking place and then going away. Like the experience is over and we're on to a new experience.
Exactly, because the body and the mind have to. I use this word in inverted commas because I can't think of another word presently to use it. The body and the mind are a way of quantifying that experience we have because through that signal, then it makes, for instance, neuropeptides, hormones, which
Yes.
allow us to say something is occurring.
Right.
So it just quantifies that. But that signal, because the brain is an executive machine, there's no part of the brain that is for love, as far as we know today.
Right.
You know, and when the first time I held the human brain in my hand, it just was.
Hmm.
It just was. And when you slice it and you say, "Oh, by the way, this was done in a medical institution."
Yeah.
Just because of sound bites, I don't want anyone
Yes.
to go
Yes.
and
Yes.
say, "This is what she said." Yeah. But even the slicing and learning all the different ways and how the different physiology works, we don't pay attention to the fact it is the signal that allows all these different parts to execute the function. And I read somewhere that when we see, you know, something, it's our experiences that allow us to quantify that experience. So when we say we're special, it's the experiences, the other signals that have happened within our tribe that allow us to come to that conclusion, to quantify that conclusion. And I use two examples. When Jesus died on the cross, I always used to think, what a weird passage to put in. The soldiers were casting lots over his garment.
Hmm.
Now, this guy never worked. So how is it
Right.
he was wearing the best of everything that people were casting lots over it? And another example is that when you decide what is your favorite meal, nobody can tell you this is my favorite meal, so it has to be your favorite meal. You decide, and you decide because of the signals that you have decided to focus on, which have then, um, how can I say, sparked certain processes that give you the decision. So the signal, the thought, the intention, the behavior.
Yeah.
So special is this is dependent on the signals you've had. And the signals you've had in our world often depend on what signals are important to the tribe that you're in. I mean, when you gave your story yesterday, I was like, oh gosh, you mean, yeah, he bought the best of this, he created an experience, he gave work for people, he allowed, I mean, there are lots of variables coming into that to make that a success.
Yeah.
And those signals you will carry out in other things that you do because you've already produced those chemicals. And they may lay dormant, but if you come to a place to produce an experience, those signals will be activated.
Yeah, like you mentioned the favorite meal thing. It brought something up for me that's really interesting. I think it's a pivotal moment in my life, and I just want to kind of express this. I as a kindergartner in school, I was interviewed by eighth graders, and they asked you like, "What's your favorite stuff?" Like, and as a kindergartner, I was like, "Favorite?" Like that's such a weird thing. I
Yeah.
didn't understand. I didn't really understand
Yes.
having a favorite color. I think when they asked me my favorite color, I was like, oh, I don't think anyone will say black, so I'll say black.
Yeah.
And like, and I was I think I was born a natural contrarian. But I remember they asked me, "What's your favorite meal?" And I think the night before, we had at my house had like a meatloaf that my mom had made, and so I said, "Oh yeah, my mom's meatloaf. I think that's my favorite."
Mm-hmm.
Because we just had that. And then they were like, "Well, what about like pizza or this or that?" And I was like, I guess those things are fine,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and I didn't have any sort of like declaration of like what my favorite was.
Mm-hmm.
And even to this day, it's really hard for me to kind of be like, "What's your favorite something?" And I'm always like, "That so weird. What a weird thing to have, like a favorite."
Mm-hmm. Martin, have you ever considered that because you're connected to your authentic self, may may appear to be make you a contrarian? Because the thing is that our egos, the way I see it, is um, the beliefs we must absorb so that we are loved by the group that we're in.
Right.
So if we're then connecting to our authentic self, which is saying, "Oh well, I don't understand favorite. I see. I want to. How I feel about this is very different to what the group feels about it." And that is always creates problems. But that on the edge is the edge of creativity. And my favorite artists are the Impressionists. And
Mm,
again, so much turmoil because they did not adhere to the group think. Yet out of that came creativity that now sells for millions, and also speaks to us. And Seurat's painting, uh, I always look at it, the bathers, I always
yeah.
look at it, the closer you get, the more you see the dots. The further away you are, the more you see the complete picture. And
Yes.
just don't focus on the dots. Don't get too close. Step away to the greatness that is in you. That is your authentic self, which has
Mm.
always been with you. And that's what connects.
Oh, Bella, I love you so much. And being in Chicago, we love the Impressionists. So
Yeah. Ah, there you go.
Thank you so much, Bella. It's always wonderful to speak with you and to connect with you. And I know that we are connected always, and that's something that I carry in my heart very dearly. At the end of this chapter 77, it says, "The master can keep giving because there is no end to her wealth." And I just want to say, Bella, that is you. Like, you always just keep giving. And it's so beautiful. And it continues to say, "She acts without expectation and succeeds without taking credit." And I think that every time I've spoken with you, that has been the case. She doesn't think she's better than anyone else, and that's beautiful. And that's a place that I'm always, looking to move into. And you know, I really loved what she had said about the idea that, like, oh, maybe my identity of being a natural contrarian is actually just me getting in touch with myself and being in touch with who I am. And I think that initially was probably the case. And then there was a point in my life where I attempted to be contrarian just because I was already not fitting in. And so just not fitting even more became something that was a way for me to stay safe. And now, as I get older and as I continue to expand on the world that I'm in, um, I get to be here and be present with who I am, and not have to reach out to be a contrarian specifically. Oh, I see Regina's in here. Regina, I wanted to try and pop into yours, but I ended up talking on mine longer than I thought I would. Please join me if you are still here and would like to pick a number. Oh, and there you are. Thank you. So yeah, this is Regina. She just got out of a talk. How you doing?
Hey, all right. Hold on a second. Am I there? There I
You
am.
are
Good.
here. You are here. You are with me.
A little slow on the uptake today. Some, I'm a Monday girl. I love my Mondays, but some Mondays are everybody else's Mondays, and today's sort of an everybody else's Monday, quote unquote. So yeah, little rough morning, but hey, I'm so
A rough
excited to
morning.
be. Well, yes, 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 but I'm so excited to be here with you.
Yeah.
And I don't think I've ever picked a, I don't think I've ever picked a, like, how do I do this? I just,
You just between 1 and 81, any number.
1 in 81, 68.
68, and there we are. And now, and this is your Tao for the day. The best athlete wants his opponent at his best. The best general enters the mind of his enemy. The best businessman serves the communal good. The best leader follows the will of the people. All of the all of them embody the virtue of non-competition. Not that they
Mhm.
don't love to compete, but that they do it in the spirit of play. In this, they are like children and in harmony with the Tao. So, what are your initial thoughts there?
Oh, that's perfect. I, uh, as I was building my business, working on my business this year, many people ask the question, well, who's your competition? And I laughed every time. There,
Yeah,
I have no competition. That is the opposite of how I see the world.
yeah.
And right before I jumped on, I wrote um, I wrote rhythm on my big post-it board because I am starting to look at my business like almost like a game, and just like a child with a child's eye. I want rhythm in my business, and in order to have rhythm, you have to play a little bit with tempo, with the other, like all the parts of the band. How are we going to work together, and how are we going to make this sound beautiful and feel easy? It
Oh,
it's got to be easier than what it's been. And when I fall back into those childlike behaviors, thoughts, I feel so so much happier. We deserve to be happy in the work that we're doing in the world. People want happy people doing the good work.
That's right. That's right. I think you and I need to get together for 2022. I think we should set something up where we're checking in and like, like, because I've had some of the same sort of thoughts. So we should check in outside of this. But let's go back to 68. And
The
what we
Tao.
do now is, we'll go through it line by line and just kind of like talk about what we experience here. So the best
Okay.
athlete wants his opponent at his best. So
Yeah.
what I think about here is like, how many of us here in the States want our opponent to be hurt or want our opponent
Mm.
to be, like, we think poorly of, like, we want them to mess up so that we get an upper edge, right? That seems to be like an undercurrent of a lot of competition here.
Mm. Yes. Not me. You know
No,
what?
yeah, no, I hear that.
But the thing is, when the person that you are sitting across from, playing a game or competing or however that looks, when they are at their best, it moves you into flow more easily. You
Right.
get into that competitive, that fun sensation of flow. And God bless him, Mihai Csikszentmihalyi just passed away, and I was so sad to. Of course, I would love for him to live forever, but we want to get into that flow state, and we're going to be better able to do it if we are challenged just a little bit.
Yeah, and well, even if we're challenged a lot, we can be like, okay, well, we're not at that level, and we could then challenge ourselves to continue to get better. And
Yes.
that's the thing. Like, when we talk about we want our opponent, what is our opponent at this moment? We want them at their best. We want that opponent at their best so that we can just and like, this is breaking it down to athlete, and
Mm-hmm.
so things that are physical, like things that are very, like, you might not want to look at this in the same way that you look at business, because maybe it's just, maybe your business has to, like, here it says the best businessman serves the communal good. And so, like, there are different ways of looking at what is the ultimate here. So it goes, the best athlete wants his opponent at his best. That way you can, in the physical aspects of things, you want to be able to achieve and
Yes.
and
Mm-hmm.
move forward. Now, the best general enters the mind of his enemy. Like, this is about being open-minded. This is about being
Yes.
humble in your own intellect.
Yes.
And
It's
then the
like
best, go on, please.
no, but it's the like the mind, body, spirit.
Right.
Yes.
And
That's
then,
all what
right,
I'm
and
all
just,
about. Mm-hmm.
yeah, so you had the body and then the mind, and then the best businessman serves the communal good. This is like the spirit of something. This is you acting upon the communal good. And then the
Yes.
best leader follows the will of the people. This is again a part of spirit, and a part of energy, and a part of, like, as a leader, you once again hold this space of humbleness.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, do it, and it brings it. This is the question that we're always asking ourselves when we're in as leaders in service, is not what do I want to be doing, but how do I serve the needs of my clients, of my
Mhm.
consumers?
Yeah,
What do they want? We need to be asking that question more often.
I think so. Yeah. And I'm going to be, and when I see my clients, I only see my clients 4 times. And I'm going to
Right.
be having a final client today, like I'm going to have a client in which she is doing her final session today. And
Mm.
when she came to me, she was like, I want to get rid of all of my symptoms. I want to get rid of all of my symptoms. I want to get rid of all of my symptoms. We have to look at my symptoms. And the whole time we've been working together, I'm like, your symptoms aren't the problem. I don't care about your symptoms. I know you want to focus on your symptoms, but we have to, like, you really want all of the symptoms to go away, not just one of them. And so what we have to focus on is you, and how do we rise you up to get your symptoms to go away, or to get you comfortable with living with your symptoms if they're not going to go away.
Yeah.
You know, it's like your real complaint isn't your symptoms. It is the problem that is causing the symptoms. And then, you know, and finally, like after in our second set, actually after our first session, but she kept wanting to bring him back. But we had a phone call this week, which is part of my process. But and tomorrow we will get together to do kind of the final like handoff so she can go and live her life again
Mm.
without me. Right? Like
Yeah.
I'm not her babysitter for the rest of her life. Like
Right.
I've presented her with that which she needs to step into her own.
Mm.
And as a leader, I want to follow her will. Like, I don't want her to focus on the wrong things, but I want to make sure that, like, oh, you want to take care of your symptoms? Great. We can suppress your symptoms by focusing on your symptoms, or we can relieve your symptoms by focusing on the problem.
Yes, and it's similar to what I just came off talking about was how are you at being alone? And and our nature is to fill that space, that time by ourselves when we could actually listen to what our bodies are telling us.
Yes. And that's why I don't know if you've heard, but I'm doing a dark retreat in March. So
Yes.
that is all about that. Just stepping away and getting out of my head, getting out of my eyes, getting out of that which is so easy to consume, right?
Mm-hmm.
Everything around us.
Mm-hmm.
All of them, as the Tao continues, all of them embody the virtue of non-competition. Not that they don't love to compete, but they do it in the spirit of play.
Mm.
You remember when we were kids and we were like, you could just play and it wasn't a competition, and like it wasn't upsetting to lose.
Right. Right.
You
Just
didn't even
start.
know that you lost
Right.
sometimes.
Right. Right.
It was just to play.
Yes, and I think that we get a lot of I think that when we can play and let go of the outcome. When we're playing, we're in that moment, the being, the being.
Yeah, being here
And
now,
mhm,
present.
right. That's where we get our downloads. This is where some of the best ideas come in the
Yeah,
times that we're playing and we're not concerned about anything, about winning, about being bigger, stronger, faster, smarter.
yeah. We're just being here now. And you know, one of my regular guests, who I believe is waiting in the queue now, Catherine, she always talks about intuition and being in this spot. And this is a beautiful reminder of, like, they're like children, and in being like children, they're in harmony with the Tao.
Yes.
They're in harmony with all that is. They're in harmony with all they are, because they are all that is.
Mm. The Tao is as complicated as it is simple. And I believe the same thing is true about being. It is not so simple to be.
And yet
And
you are never not doing it.
right.
Right? You are
Right.
always being. So if you are angry and upset and like yelling and shaking your fist, you are being, and that's okay. But when you leave that and you state like, oh, I don't want to be doing that, I don't want to be there, I don't want to be in that spot, it's hurting me, it's hurting my heart, it's hurting my life, well, then that is an opportunity to do something different and be someone different.
Yes. Yes. And we're the only ones that can make that decision for ourselves, but we have to notice, you know,
Awareness. Awareness.
when we busy ourselves. And I was speaking with somebody who was waking up, sort of like waking up from the need to fill the space when she was by herself. And she talked about having this opportunity to be alone on a Saturday. And instead of running errands or connecting with a friend or doing something outside the house or even inside the house, she sat and sat in a sauna. She got on her Peloton bike and felt her body, work and sweat. She spent time with her dog, just being, no television, no outside distractions. And it is amazing how good we get at filling space.
Yes. Like there is nothing like, that's, I always like to utilize that term, living under the influence. Right?
Mm.
Like you just, or pacifiers, like filling space could just so easily just become a pacifier. She could eventually use her Peloton as a pacifier,
Yes,
right?
yes.
Like everything that you utilize at all. Like I could even utilize like the dark retreat as a pacifier to escape something else. But it's all about integrating and growing in that moment.
Mm.
For me, that's what it is. And that helps me be present here now.
Well, one thing I do know is that whenever we talk, whether it's here or outside the space, it is an invitation to be present. You have quite a way of making people feel seen and heard, and I value you. So thank you, and have a beautiful day, Martin John. I think you're
Oh,
amazing.
oh, Regina, thank you so much. That's so beautiful to hear, and 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 very much needed as well. Oh, we did lose somebody, but we got Catherine coming in. I did want to speak to more people, but here we go, Catherine. Catherine is beautiful, and I love Catherine, and so I'm gonna have her on now.
71.
71. 71. Okay, 71 it is. How are you doing?
Excellent, excellent. I had my weekend was not as productive as I would have liked due to the
Good.
fact I had a
Good.
few. No, not really, because I had migraines all weekend.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So it wasn't as productive as I would have liked due to the fact that I'm going to be gone for 10 days. I need to have podcasts done ahead of time and all over.
Mm.
So not so much, but
But that's
wah,
what
wah,
that's what the
wah.
that's what the universe needed. The universe was like, nope, nope, you can't do this. We're gonna give you a migraine, and this is
Yeah.
this is part of the intuitive process. Like you just
Yeah,
have
it
to
was
trust it.
super helpful. I super love sitting in the dark and throwing up. It's awesome.
Well, I'm sorry I'm sorry the universe had to go to such lengths to get
I
you to take
know.
a
I mean,
break.
it's not near as dramatic as the 50-pound tables. So, I'll go with it.
Okay, so 71.
71.
You're going to love this.
Oh,
Not
good.
knowing is true knowledge. Presuming to know is a disease. If you
Yes.
realize that you're sick, then you can move towards health. This is just what Regina and I were talking about too. The master is her own physician. She has healed herself of all knowing. Thus, she is truly whole. Oh my God, how beautiful is that?
I like this.
Yeah,
Ooh.
that deserves a ooh, yeah.
Ooh.
So what are your first thoughts? Like other than yes, of course.
Ooh.
Okay, we're gonna go straight through to line by line because this is a beautiful one.
It is a good one.
Not knowing is true knowledge.
Oh my God, so true. In every sense of that. Like not knowing is true knowledge that because you don't know. You don't know. You don't know what's going to happen next. Worrying is a waste of time. Planning always blows up in your face, really, if you overplan. Like, you have so much, the unknowing is what gives you the knowing to move forward. Such a strange thing for people to wrap their heads around. And of course, in the world that I work in with,
Government,
analytical people.
businesses, analytic.
Yeah. That it's that challenge of that, what is knowing? And, it's the unknown which gives you the knowing.
Right. Yeah. It's true knowledge. Like
Yep.
being in a space where you're open, because once you know something, you've closed other things off.
Yep. Yeah. And that's why I say a lot of time, people say, how do I know it's my intuition? I say, if you don't have that chatterbox of going, well, I wouldn't really like it this way. What if this happens? If none of that's going on, more than likely it's your intuition. If you start getting the chattery box going, then you're not in intuition, you're in wishing world.
Ooh, that is the hope is as hollow as fear.
Yeah. They're really bad drivers too.
Yes.
Yeah.
What do you mean? I think there's a thing I didn't get there. They're bad drivers.
Driving if you're driving along.
Oh, you're drivers. Yes.
Yeah,
Not
they're
not not
bad
on the
drivers.
street, but drivers of your life.
Well, and drivers of the street.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so presuming to know is a disease.
Well, that's like what planning, right? Or worry.
Mm-hmm.
Like worry, shoulda, coulda, woulda, should all over yourself, right? I
Yeah.
mean, how often does shoulda, woulda, coulda happen in people's lives? Constantly.
Yeah.
We're always shoulda, woulda, coulda. So that's always looking in the rearview mirror. And then worrying is, it's driving with a magnifying glass. I mean, could you imagine driving your car through a windshield that was a magnifying glass?
Whoa.
Like, seriously, people, not only are things distorted, like a small little rabbit on the side of the road could look like a cow stepping out.
Right.
Like you have no idea what you're doing. So you can't tell. Just don't worry about it.
Right.
Relax. Outline something, but we don't need to overly plan because life happens. The moment you make a major plan, that's when life happens. Trust
That's
me.
right.
I've
And
been lucky enough.
I like how this line starts with presuming to know is a disease.
Yes.
Because it immediately says like not knowing is true knowledge. Presuming to know is a disease. So the minute you step out of your bed in the morning and presume to know who you are today, or presume to know what you're about to accomplish or what you're about to do, just like you and your weekend,
Yeah.
presume to know is a
Yeah.
disease. And that disease will make you throw up and sit in the dark all the weekend.
I know.
But first realize that you're sick, then you can move towards health.
Yes. Yeah. First realize that, I think the biggest thing is when people are trying to make things happen. I'm going to make things happen. I'm going to follow the directions of how this person succeeded. I'm going to, you know, make this detailed outlined plan. And then they're like, but it's still not working. So I'm going to try harder at that.
Right. And I'm
And
guilty of it.
yeah. And it's like, wow, really? So beating your head against a wall full of nails, is that pleasant?
No, hasn't been pleasant.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
No. And the thing is, it's totally different than my favorite thing of the Freddy Krueger punch, because, I mean, that's when Freddy Krueger comes out of your dream and punches you. But when you do the head against the nails, you're doing it to yourself, buddy.
Right. Right. And that's great because like what it says here, like first realize that you're sick. First realize that you are presuming to know.
Yeah.
And once you do that, you can move towards health, which means you are moving towards a space of not knowing. Moving
Mm-hmm.
towards a space where you are open to the idea that you don't know. You're open to
Yeah.
the idea that you're not knowing, right? Like you're not just presuming to know anything anymore.
Right.
And that's
Well, and
and
that's
that
like that's the first step of that I say of intuition is being open.
right. open
And you
to
have
what is
to,
going to present itself. Because if you presume to know anything, you're going to be closed off to so much of what your intuition may be trying to tell you.
including um, having the presumption of how intuition shows up or what it is. There are some people that still feel like it's your knowledge that guides your intuition. It's you
Mm.
have to really let go of the analytical world. You have to let go of these structures and designs and seek for the experiences. You've had your intuition already. And that's why, like I pointed out to people, these are the moments you've already had it. So you can be open and recognize it.
Right.
Because
Yeah.
otherwise we bring that crap forward with us.
Yeah. And like I follow my intuition very closely, and yet I also presume to know at times.
Oh
And
yeah.
presume, and because I doubt myself, I doubt my intuition, I doubt my, I doubt my ability in the world of, like in the business world or in the world of coaching or in the world of getting sales or whatever it is. Like I can doubt that really easily while I am so intuitively driven by the process of doing what it is I do.
Yeah. And
But all of that is the same.
yeah, and I'm so come from such a lineage of business and work in the business world that I can fall into the analytical and logical side
Right.
without realizing it, because it's kind of another space that I'm used to working in, and people still want to have that in their business when they work with me, and so I have to mold the two, and so I will fall into that trap as well.
Yeah. And it's
So,
just work. It's just work day to day. The
but it's not
master.
supposed to be perfect.
Well, right. Absolutely. It is just the work of living our lives, and what
Yeah,
a great experience it becomes.
there you go.
Yeah. The master is her own physician. She has healed herself of all knowing. Thus, she is truly whole.
It's my favorite line, and this is what I say all the time: no one is the boss of me.
That's right. No one is the boss of you.
And it's so much about how I say, the path that is for you is for you. And you heal yourself when you recognize that you have your own path. And when you try to walk on someone else's path, it's just never going to work. You're always going to shoulda, woulda, coulda, beat
Yeah.
yourself up. You can walk parallel sometimes to someone's path and say, ooh, these are cool things, but it is your own path. And when you realize that, and when you realize quickly when you start following someone else's path, that's when you heal yourself. That's when you come back to yourself, and you will constantly, we all constantly step off of our own path for a little bit and go on our little, off-roading trip or whatever. But
Yeah.
the healing part is, as soon as you recognize it, the faster you learn to do that, to get on your path. That's what the journey is really about. It's not about constantly being on your path. It's about learning to quickly heal yourself and bring yourself back.
Yeah, I talk about that, and that in my words, I talk about it as like living under the influence, right? Something comes
Mm-hmm.
in, and you live under the influence of an idea. You live under the influence of another person. You live under the influence of, like expectation. You live under the
Yep.
influence of all of these things, and yet it's still your life. And so how quickly you get back to, no longer living under the influence into living the life that you are living, and into getting back on your path. That is tantamount to that is the most important thing that you can do right now, especially if
Mm-hmm.
you finding yourself like day in and day out being like frustrated. It's like, okay, well, what what are you presuming to know?
Yep.
Because if you can get rid of that, odds are you will be moving towards health, and by moving towards health, you will be able to be truly whole.
Yes. And be okay with, expecting intuition to be there when you step off your path, and expect that you are going to step off it constantly and consistently throughout your life. The only thing you need to do is recognize it sooner and quicker and be able to get back to your path easier. You're never going to be 100% all the time in flow,
Yes,
boring.
absolutely. You know, it's funny. Like, I remember going to a friend of mine, Alan, one time we were talking. He was like, you are never going to be everything the universe wants you to be. And the universe is never going to be everything that you want it to be. But it is a conversation that you're having with the now. And in that conversation, you can choose to not listen, and you can choose to, just like in any conversation, you can choose to disagree, you can choose to not listen, you can choose to be open, you can choose all of these different aspects of the conversation. But ultimately, your life is in conversation with. It
It's
is not.
it's ongoing.
Yeah, it's
Hmm.
constantly changing. And I mean, Regina and I talked about, and Bella and I were talking about, just like the experience will just, you know, arise and disappear just as quickly.
Hmm. Yep. Sometimes your intuition is like Charlie Brown's parents. Yeah, because you're so busy presuming you know.
Yep. And
And
so you
then
just,
when
yeah,
you heal yourself, it's clear as day. It sounds like Peppermint Patty.
peppermint patty. I like peppermint patty.
I do too.
she's, she's, she can be a bitch, but it's all right. Like, she's good
I
people.
imagine drag racing with her.
Oh yeah.
I think she'd be fun.
I think, yeah, I think peppermint patty and fun definitely go together. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. That was one of my faves. But Catherine, it's so great. When am I no longer going to be able to have you on Dow of the Day? You're going away for 10 days.
Oh, it's the 7th, but I might, who knows? Maybe I'll be in, line at Winnie the Pooh or something with, you know,
I
we'll
don't
get,
I
we'll
don't
get some,
understand that.
we'll get
Are
in
you
thought.
going to Disney? What are you doing?
We're going Disney World.
Oh, that's nice. You and your mom?
No, no, my best friend and his 2 boys.
Oh, okay.
They're 6 and 9. It's their first trip.
Their first trip to Disney World, or their first trip?
Well, yeah, it's kind of their first big trip and their first Disney trip.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I've never been on a Disney trip. That doesn't appeal to me.
It's quite fun. It feels like a totally different place.
That is, I can imagine that. Like, it feels like a totally different place. Yeah, yeah, I can definitely imagine that. Catherine, I love you. Thank you so much for joining me today and going through 71. Not knowing is true knowledge, but I want to know where you're going. Okay, if anybody else wants to come up and give me a number between 1 and 81, I want to share the Tao with you. That is why I come on Monday through Friday in the morning Central Time. My name is Martin John, and I present the Tao to you, like I said, here on Wisdom. If you want to come on and give me a number between 1 and 81, I am open for another round. But if not, I am interested in having you as a client. Go figure. That's what I do. I talk about recovery and recovering to something. So, really re engaging in your life. I mean, all of the things that I talk about here, all of the praise I was getting from both Regina and Bella, and just being. Having Catherine come on over and over is great advertisement for who I am and what I can offer, and the work that I do. So if you want to learn more about me, you can back channel me on Instagram or my website, martinjohn.com. And other than that, this is a Recover Yourself production. I host the Recover Yourself podcast, and I have workshops coming up. So if you're interested in learning more about what I do, you can join me at a workshop. Once again, all of those links can be back channeled to you through Instagram or on my website. This is a Recover Yourself production of the Tao of the Day. I'm your host, Martin John, and until next time, each and every one of you keep recovering yourself.